Good morning and welcome to the BlackUSA.News Morning Show. My name's Donnie Glover. I'll be your host today. This is going to be the week. I mean, just the week. And a big part of it is this lady right here, Deborah Hardnett. Been knowing Deborah maybe 10, 15 years, but I can tell you, if you ever have a book that you need to get out, you better have somebody on your team like Sister Deborah. Sister Deborah, how you doing?
I am doing absolutely amazing. How are you, my brother Donnie?
I'm amazing. May peace be unto you. Salamu alaikum
Wa
warahmatullahi
alaikum
wabarakatuh.
salam. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my brother. Thank you. Yes,
For,
indeed.
for those who have missed you here in the DMV, when were you last here?
Well, I moved back to my home in 2015. And it has been a while. I've been back and forth to the DMV, of course, with the pandemic. That's kind of halted some. Do look forward to getting back up there soon, but have not been in my beloved Baltimore in a minute. So I have got to make my way back. I tell you what, I when I think of Baltimore, I think of the richness of the history, of course, and the evidence of that are the people. Just some of the most warm, consistent, sincere individuals. So, like I said, I got to get back to Baltimore real soon.
What's happening in Atlanta? How is the climate there?
Well, you know what?
Politically, business.
You- So much. Like I said, being a native of Atlanta, so much has changed. It is a new city. It's not the city that I grew up in, that's for sure. It's a lot of opportunities, lot of diversity in the area. So many people have moved here. A lot of traffic that you hear about. It's always funny. People ask, they talk about the traffic. They complain about the traffic, and I'm like, that's because you just moved here. You know? But it's like I said, a lot of major corporations headquartered here. UPS, we know the standards of Delta and Coca Cola, but Mercedes Benz built
They got
their
a new
U.S.
stadium.
Yes, got the stadium, and they built their U.S. headquarters here. You've got Porsche that has a major presence here. Just tons of opportunities, and then of course in the entertainment industry, every major movie studio has a presence here now, and so it's a lot of opportunities for business in
Is
the
this
area.
so? This is not the Atlanta you grew up in.
It's not the Atlanta I grew up in. When we start talking more about, I guess, the environment, of course, the growth, you cannot not discount the growth that has happened here, but just the more Atlanta was always a big country town, a big small town, if you will, and we don't have that same feel, in my opinion. Of course, this is all my opinion anymore.
But one thing about Atlanta, you mentioned earlier consistency
Yes.
between Atlanta and Washington D.C. Both of you guys have kept a black mayor for the past 40 years.
Yes, yes, that is true. That is true. Of course, our population here in the city of Atlanta has been a large population of African Americans, but it's going to be interesting to see, what happens in the next election coming up, because, like I said, a lot, as you know, what is happening around our country with the regentrification. There are a lot of other people who will be voting in the elections now that may not have voted in the past because they were in the suburban areas, right? So, or they weren't here. Like I said, it's not just the growth is not just a basic people moving from Cali to Atlanta or Baltimore to Atlanta. It's international growth. It's a huge international presence here as well. So, but yes, we have remained consistent in that.
So on that note, on the international, any particular countries or ethnic groups that are coming there more than others?
There is a beautiful presence of Indian population, dominant, because again we have a lot of software companies, IT companies. There's a large IT presence here, and so there's tends to be, and then in the medical, we have several major hospitals here and universities, the Emory system that trains, and so that of course has attracted a lot. There is a huge Asians present here now. We even have, I've heard a lot of people say that Atlanta really has the best, one of the best in the States, Korean barbecue. So we're known for the Korean barbecue now, and our restaurants, being that hospitality is one of our main industries here in Atlanta. So yes, it's a great presence.
As I mentioned, those black mayors, and you just mentioned, the airport, I have to mention Maynard Jackson, Hartsfield International Airport.
Yes, our first black
There's a
mayor.
story out about him that when they went to build the airport, he said, if you don't do right by my black contractors,
Yes.
he said, cut the water off.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he was very well respected, very well loved. That which is why I know he was able to get reelected again and again, and greatly is missed. And I was very happy to see that his family was able to put that documentary out on him. He did. He made a lot of major changes in this area, and the airport particularly is it should have been named after him because of all of the work that he did.
Also, Deb, in Atlanta, there's this expectation. There's this expectation, as is in DC, as is in Harlem. There's this expectation that black people run things. When you go into a business, a store, or what have you, you see a major project, be it the Mercedes Stadium or Hartsfield International, there is this expectation that African Americans are intricately involved. Am I reading that correctly?
Oh yeah, I mean that's why you hear a lot of people. The reason when we talk about African Americans, why they moved to Atlanta, was because of that. People that I talk to all the time who've been here for years, and they say, I think this is one of the distinctive differences from when you were here back at Morehouse, when you were here, from that time, as to when I say the time has changed, things are different here in Atlanta. It was more prevalent, like you said, for people when they came here to see, man, black doctors, attorneys, business owners, to see that. And that's what attracted people, African Americans, to come to the quote unquote Black Mecca here. And yeah, I think that is a strong point of expectations, to be able to see, and plus people wanting their children to experience that these are things that you can do. This is an expectation. Like we talk about the Cosby Show. I don't know if we supposed to talk about the Cosby Show or not. Now I don't know politically correct or what, but
I love the guy. You talking about because Bill got locked up? We love Bill. We love Bill. Free Bill. Free Bill. Free Bill now.
But when you talk about the Cosby Show, I remember having real conversations, and sometimes heated conversations, with people saying that that's not real. That's not real. And I really didn't understand it until a couple of years ago. Well, maybe that was not real for someone like a rapper like Jay-Z or something, hip hop. The dynamics of everybody talking about maybe where they grew up in a different environment, from where I grew up here in Atlanta. That was real. I mean, we had the Black Santa Claus, right? This was an expectation, and that is something that that's something that will never change in my DNA. That's why I still today I look for I don't care what type of business it is. I expect it wherever I travel to. I look for that because that's what I saw, if that makes sense.
No, and so we can't go too far without also acknowledging the civil rights history of
Yes,
Atlanta.
yes,
I mean,
yes.
many people call Atlanta the headquarters, the center,
Yes.
if you will, of the civil rights movement.
Absolutely. And I mean, that was me being born in 69, right there on the tail end of it and raised in West 100th Street Baptist Church. Reverend Ralph David Abernathy, who a lot of people don't know, really is one of the founders of the civil rights movement. He baptized me. And so raised in that environment in that church of seeing all of the civil rights leaders come through constantly, that when you speak to my peers who grew up here, that definitely made an impact. And that is something I was having a conversation yesterday, and that is something that we don't really see that I guess that unity, within, because we're so far from the pain, quote unquote pain, the external pain of it. Now we've got serious things going on today, but I'm talking about you can't sit here, the color only bathrooms and things like that. You're not allowed to come into the schools and things like that. That was very real. I mean, personally for me, oh, I'm sorry.
You experienced that?
Oh yeah, I remember my father. We had an experience of like the Jeffersons. My father was an entrepreneur. He had a business. If you know Hunter Street, which is Martin Luther King, Hunter Street and Ashby Street, he had a record shop right next to Pascal's. That was one of the first black hotels here
That was on MLK.
right, and that was called Hunter Street at the time. And
Oh, it was.
yes, that was Hunter Street. And that's where the church I mentioned where Ralph David Abernathy, it was on Hunter Street and it was West Hunter. That's why they call it West Hunter Street Baptist Church. But I remember we moved into East Point and College Park with, a lot is made popular through a lot of hip hop songs and all of that. East Point, we were one of the first black families in our neighborhood. That was around the 72, 73. So, and I remember distinctively people driving down the street, young kids, yelling out the N word. I remember my mother being pulled over by the East Point police for a tail light was out and took my mother into jail. And I remember as a child being sitting there waiting on somebody to come. It was I guess they impounded the car or whatever. It was something crazy. I remember my neighbor, God bless them, which I love them to this day. But their father came up to my father. He was in the backyard working and had, just when he had just moved. And he came to my father and said, "Hey, would you go in the house and ask your man if he mind if I use you?" Now, of course, my father had some words to say, but he thought that my father was the groundsman, not the owner of that property, right? So I
Oh,
remember those.
wow.
Yeah, I do. I mean,
Wow.
I'm just 52, so we can look at how time
You
is
look
moving
great,
fast.
lady.
Thank you. Praises God, all praises to God. But we can look at how time is moving fast and fast and faster, even with the technology and everything, all of the distractions and so many things that we have coming at us. We can see how it's easy for us to be pushed away from those things, the core of things that, uh, we remember. And even teaching the kids. I speak to people who've come here to Atlanta. They've never been to the King Center, right? I mean, it's not a lot to see. It's not like it's going to take you a long time to see it,
But it's a must. For any
but
conscious
I mean,
black
it's a
person, it's a
must.
must.
It's a must. But that's my point that I'm making. That must is drifting for us, right? It's drifting. So they've not been to the King Center. They don't couldn't tell you where the AU Center is.
I can tell you where it's at. It's in Southwest Atlanta. And you get off at Ashby Street Station or West End, and you wait for that bus or you walk. And I tended to walk because that was a long wait for the bus. Reminded me of the 51 bus in Baltimore. It's about one every hour.
Yeah. Yeah. And partly I won't make excuses or anything, but I know partly in their defense, our city is grown so much, it's expanded so much, and again, the traffic and all of that, I know has played a lot on changes for people.
Now, what also comes from Atlanta are some entrepreneurial minds.
Yes.
And let's start with Herman J. Russell.
Yes.
And to the mayor's credit, Maynard Jackson.
Yes.
You just don't get a Maynard Jackson out of nowhere. That was a man who was birthed in the tradition and who understood that politics without economics is nothing.
Right.
So today, when we have Black elected officials across the yin yang, how many of them understood, like a Maynard Jackson, I almost said Marion Barry, that if I'm the mayor and you want to do business in my city, you better darn sure be looking out for Black people. Because if you don't, you're going to have problems. The same way they did us.
Well, again, I mean, in my opinion, Donnie, I believe it's timing. Timing is absolutely everything. And when we talk about segregation, the closeness of segregation, when I'm talking about timing, when Maynard Jackson was mayor and the time of segregation, just coming out of segregation here when he became the mayor, right? That was a different time. Mayors today, it's not just here in the U.S. The issue, you cannot just talk black and white. For us, we from an African American centered perspective, which I believe in the tossed salad, right? All flavors, your tomatoes, the carrots, the mushrooms, all those things maintain the cilantro, their distinctive flavors. A melting pot that you hear people refer to, I don't necessarily subscribe to that, because that's when everything is melted down in it, and you can kind of taste, if your taste buds are distinctive, you can kind of taste some of the things in there, but it's all melted into one. And when you have that melting pot, a lot of things get lost in the melting pot. And so here you fast forward to 2021, and you have people in politics who are now just embedded in this system, which is, we know, it's not the most positive system at all. And I think, again, a lot of it gets lost. A lot of it gets lost in there. The whole reason, like, I mean, that's just, again, my opinion. It takes, to me, a strong person of strong convictions to, be able to hold on to their values system when you enter into this current political environment today.
Stacey Abrams.
Let me just say, she's loved by everyone. I mean, she's definitely, when you talk about grassroots, which is where we know how President Obama initially got elected. That was a lot of emphasis on the grassroots movement. I think what she's been able to do has been incredible. Again, I like to talk about the business aspect of everything and how business, like you say, influences. It'd be interesting to see. I just keep it like that to see what the next move will be for her. She certainly has a huge following, not just here in Georgia, but all around the country for, the impact of the elections that we just experienced.
So on one hand, I'm hearing that Atlanta is being gentrified, maybe.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm also seeing that Georgia is the blackest state. And Georgia went from formerly red to now blue. So Georgia's a national hero.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is, unless you like the insurrectionist president. Hey, look, they only blocked him for 2 years on Facebook. I say one pro-black thing, and they block me forever. Explain that about America.
Well, Donnie, you come on, how we converse. Uh, I'll just say this.
We need our own.
I'll just say this: being an independent thinker, and as you see, we talked about my conversion, to Islam. This month is my 2-year anniversary, and it just has illuminated so many things for me to help me to see things a lot more clearer. That's one of my testimonials. And one of that, I'm saying that to say, is all that we see is not what we really see. It's an illusion. It's smoke and mirrors. And when we talk about politics, I've trying to kind of remove myself from some things because I don't necessarily believe what I'm seeing on either side, if that makes sense.
No, I get it.
And I believe that there are distractions that are put in place, because I'm not saying that we do not need to focus on this. I want to talk about the mid-tier advocacy, which is, why we came on today. That's an incredible organization that I'm blessed to be on the board of, and it's nonpartisan. And I'm also a part of Women Impacting Public Policy. These nonpartisan organizations are important for us to be aware of what's going on in politics and how that affects our businesses, right? But when it comes to being intertangled into the debates and conversations about what a person is doing and what they really think and what they really believe, I've always thought that they go behind the closed doors. They fight out in front of us to keep us confused, and they go behind. And I mean, I thought that for a long time, but now I don't know what they're doing, because it seems to be a lot of ugly battles. I'm about decorum and respect, right? Where you can agree to disagree. And I never appreciate it when I see grown-ups behave in the way that grown-ups are behaving now in front of our children. Even when you talk about athletics. I mean, you remember growing up how, okay, you need to go in sports so that you can learn how to work with people, learn how, when you lose, sometimes you might lose, how to behave when you lose. You go shake the hands and all, not all this temper tantrums and throwing stuff and stuff. That's not real life to me. So,
The more time goes by, the more we act entitled ourselves as a race of people.
right. Yeah.
I see second and third generation Asians and Latinos, and they dealing with the same thing with their children. Right. This entitled mentality, exactly. Like somebody owes me something.
Exactly. Like, and I heard a lady say one time, and I believe we were having I was in some type of workshop. I don't remember, but I've been saying it since. And she said, you can't Google experience. You can't Google experience. And that's turn my phone, sorry. That's what
I like that.
Is
I like that.
Is what. And I mean, I have a 17, soon to be 18-year-old, and she's most respectable. I mean, just blessed to be her mother, but she's a Leo and she's 17. And sometimes we have things when I'm trying to help her now as she's going off to college or in some writing or what have you. I have to jack her up sometimes and let her know, look,
Not sweet Deborah.
yeah, I'm like, I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help you. I mean, I have been here a little bit longer. Right? I am in a writing field.
And that's when the fight broke out. I gotta justify that I'm older than you. That means I done already lost the fight.
But what it is, they can Google all the information, Donnie. They know more than we knew at that age because it's right there. I mean, we had to go to the library. We had to hope that the book we were looking for was there. Even when you talk about reference books, you couldn't check the reference books out, right? You had to stay right there and read what you were trying to read at that time.
Now this is a bit of a curveball for you, Deborah.
That's okay.
But I got you. I got you. Now, what high school did you go to?
Northside High School.
Okay. Now, Morocco Coleman, welcome to the show. Meet Sister Deborah.
Hello, how are you, brother?
Good morning.
Love that name.
I'm fantastic.
To be in Morocco right now.
Thank you. I would too.
What high school did you go to, Morocco?
I went to the historical Booker T.
Washington High. You a Grady baby?
I went to the historic Grady baby and Whiten High.
Yes.
Booker T. Washington High School in Georgia. Okay, well, great.
Morocco is an author. You got your book with you, Morocco? And he's a veteran, Sister Deborah.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much for your service.
Well, you ain't heard nothing yet. Show him the book.
Thank you.
Okay, I said, oh, nice cover there. Okay, I like that.
And the name of it is Coming Full Circle.
Lovely. I love it.
Now, Morocco's first night in Vietnam. Go ahead.
I was doing the 1968 Tet Offensive, but there are portions in the book that cover Washington High School.
Wow.
I do flashbacks. In Vietnam as I talk about my experiences, and I ran track for Washington High School, and I was a hurdler, and so it's interspersed with chapters about experiences at Washington High School and growing up here in Atlanta.
Wow. Now,
Deborah, are you here in Atlanta?
I am in Atlanta. I'm from Atlanta, Grady baby. I was just sharing about my father.
Okay.
So my father had a record shop right on Hunter Street that a lot of people were familiar with.
JT.
You know what?
JT.
I have to remember the name of it. My father passed away when I was 6 years old. I was telling Donnie about that, how we were one of the first Blacks in our neighborhood in East Point. You remember when people started moving to East Point in the early 70s?
Yeah, that was a foreign country.
Yes. Well, yeah. So
it was only one record shop on Martin Luther King, Hunter Street.
It was. I know.
It was across from the Dairy Queen.
If I remember correctly, because my mother has passed away as well, and I have to reach out to my aunt again because we were having this conversation. I want to be able to remember it, but I know it was right. Understand it wasn't far from Pascal's.
Yeah, It was
in
across
like,
the
I know
street
we
from
had it
the Dairy Queen.
68 and 68, I think 67, 69, round in there, I think was the time.
Yeah, it was right across from the Dairy Queen, and it was 4 doors down from Pascal's restaurant.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to go there to buy my. I used to go. I would go there to buy my records, and then my buddy I grew up with knew the owner, and sometimes on the weekend the owner would let my buddy work there, and I would go and help my. And it was a guy named JT that first owned it.
Well, my father was Lewis Crawford, and he also you remember the Red Baron and the 4 o'clock club on Campbellton Road that was right where, remember that little what did you call it, the Kodak, remember those little miniature houses, little miniature stands, Kodak stands, used to be a little Kodak development spot.
Yeah, we're gonna take your photo.
Yeah, he
take your film.
That's right. He managed that, those clubs there. So he was an entrepreneur. That's where I got my spirit from he and my mother. When he passed away, my mother didn't want to work outside of the home, so she started keeping children in our home from like I was time first grade on up to about a senior in high school. Yeah, so I guess Mr. Dunn.
I have to know your father. I have to know your father.
Yeah, so we have to connect.
What do you know what year your father?
Say that again.
Yeah. Do you know what year? Do you know what you're born?
Oh yeah, he's probably would have been a little bit older than you, because my father was born in 30s. He was born in the late. My mom was born in 43.
Yeah.
I want to say he was born in 31, somewhere around that time. Yeah, he was born in
and your mother went to Washington High too?
Yes, her senior year. Junior and senior year, she went to Washington High. Yeah. She had
what was your mother's maiden name?
Sparks. Now, are you my godmother is Miriam Bowens. Do you know Miriam Richardson?
Y'all keep on. Morocco.
I know the family.
So let me share this with you. Morocco is a noted veteran. And he works with veterans across the country and making sure they get their benefits.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he's a national hero.
That is awesome. Well, I mean, I'm going to definitely yield to want to hear his story. I do want to make sure that he knows about the event that's coming up on Wednesday.
So come on with it.
With veterans. Mid-tier advocacy, as I mentioned, you can go to midtier.org and register. We are hosting an event with the HHS, the Human Health and Services. They came to us, our organization. We've been around for almost 11 years now, this year. And what we do is advocate for small businesses and mid-tier size businesses who graduate from the 8A program as well. And we help on Congress, we help on the Hill. You know, we've impacted a lot of public policies with regards to federal contracts. And they came to Tanya Saunders, who is the founder, who is an extraordinary consultant and lobbyist, one of the historical ones there in the DC area. And they asked her to, because of the impact that we've had, to put them in front of business owners, CEOs, principals of companies, because they want to be able to firsthand have a dialogue on some things that they can improve and add upon, and just how to impact more public policies with regards to federal contracting with the HHS. So it's going to be a great opportunity. It is this Wednesday, and I should have probably sent you the flyer for you to put up. But it's
I'll put a link in the comment section.
Yes, please do that. And they can register. It's right there on the home page. It is, just so you'll know there, I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. It's the Assistant Deputy Secretary with Acquisition and Procurement, Mr. David Dasher, and the Small Business Office Director and Procurement team will be on board hosting and the conversation, this roundtable. So it is free to attend. Again, it is this Wednesday, and you want to be able to go to mid-tier, MIDTIER.org and register today, because the space is filling up, it's limited seats, and as you can imagine, this is an opportunity for your voice to really be heard with decision.
The link is in the comment section.
This is virtual. Yes, it is.
Is this virtual?
We normally would. Yes, it is. You know, we would always host monthly live events, but since COVID, of course, you know, we have to find the blessings in everything, and it's been great to be able to have these regular webinars and to open it up to people who were not just local, because it was a benefit for me since I moved back to Atlanta. it would be a challenge to get to those meetings, but now being virtually accessible, you can, again, this Wednesday, go to midtier.org and register for this free event. Share it with your veterans. And again, we appreciate you. I look forward to connecting with you afterwards to learn more about your book and all that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Do you know Cleveland Alameen?
Pardon? I didn't hear
you. Do you know Cleveland Alameen?
I don't.
Do you know Cleveland Alameen?
I don't. I can't say that I've met.
Okay. He was the imam at the mosque in East Atlanta.
Okay. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting. I was just sharing what Donnie knows. Donnie, we go way back. I just made my conversion in 2 years this month.
Well, Morocco was hanging.
Are you involved in the West End area?
I am in Roswell. I live in the Sandy Springs area.
Okay, got you.
Mm-hmm. And I do want to say, before I go, congratulations to Mr. Donnie Glover on his new book. I cannot wait for his new book to come out. I mean, what a time. Diane Black Wall Street. Yes. I can say I had the privilege of getting the first right off the press before it's even gone to the press. And I'm so super excited.
Wow.
And, appreciate him for his labor of love. It really is a labor of love. And I encourage everyone to not just get the book for yourself, but to buy it and to share it with others, to gift it, to others, because we need to know. He goes into the history of how Black Wall Street got started. And plus, because if you've been following Donnie, you know that he's been talking about this since, when I met him 15 years ago, Donnie. 15 years ago, he was talking about Black Wall Street then, when nobody else was talking about it. When that Be More News, was like, what was that? How do you have a news outlet online, right? So he this is not something he's jumping on the wagon talking about for anyone who's just learning about Donnie and his platform. So I yield to you, gentlemen. Thank you.
So listen, Deborah, Morocco was hanging out over. He was hanging over in West End with Jamil Al-Amin. Tell about Jamil Al-Amin, Morocco.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard so much. So many great.
You ain't heard this story.
Well, at first, when I wrote my book, I had the manuscript, but I couldn't figure out how do you get published now? Where do you go? Mm-hmm. And so I was walking in a Home Depot, and I walked by this brother that was standing talking to some people, and he had robes and everything on. And I walked by and I said, "What's happening?" I said, "What's happening?" after I passed a little further, I said, wait a minute, I need to go back and speak to this brother a little better than this. So I went back, introduced myself, and this was in 2000. And I told him, I said, we met back in 1966. I had to come home to Atlanta from college up in North Carolina to register for the draft board. And then the next day I was going back to North Carolina to school. And I was sitting in Pascal's restaurant, and I looked across the streets and I saw a sign on a building that said SNCC headquarters. And I said, you know what, the military might try to get me one day. We'll go across the streets and I'm going to join SNCC because it's considered as a subversive organization, and the military won't want me if they ever come for me. So I go in, and these three guys were signing me up. So just as I was finishing signing the paperwork, it came over the radio that a white cop had shot a black man in Southeast Atlanta. So the three guys looked at me and they said, hey, man, we don't have driver's license, but we got a van outside. If the cops see us driving it, they're going to arrest us. Do you have driver's license? I said, yes. They said, your first official duty is to drive and get us there. I said, let's go. So I took these three guys and we got to the location. When we got there, it was hundreds and hundreds of black people lining the street, and police cars and SWAT and everybody. And the mayor stood up on top of the police car and said, let us go to the stadium and sit on the steps and talk about this. And I ran over and grabbed the police car, the edge of the car where the mayor was standing on top. And I started rocking the car and cursing him out. All of a sudden, all these brothers ran up and helped me, and we knocked the mayor off the top of the car. A full-scale riot took place. And so my aunt in New York sent me a picture off the front page of New York Times with me right in the middle of starting this riot. And it was the Summer Hill riot of 1966. Well, the three guys that I took there that day was Cleve Sellers, Stokely Carmichael, and H. Rap Brown, who is now Imam Jamil Al-Amin.
Yes.
And he's Imam Jamil Al-Amin. So in the front of my book, I have a dedication to him because he's the one that helped me to get published.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome. That is a beautiful story.
But speaking of Donnie's book, go ahead.
No, you go, sir. You go. That's fascinating.
Well, I was just saying that, as you're saying about Donnie, he's very knowledgeable. He knows everybody in the world. And I was just captivated when I first saw the cover of his book. Besides getting around to read it this week is what I'm going to do. But I was just captivated by the cover of the book. And so I'm very much looking forward to reading it also.
Yes.
Well, Morocco, for both of my books, this lady,
yes, sir.
She and Pam Reeves, they dragged me across the finish line. First, Pam gotta, touch me up and all of that. And then Deborah does the final touches, because you gotta have a team. And whatever you do, you gotta have a team.
Absolutely.
And they're relentless.
Absolutely.
That is fantastic. That's fantastic. Wow. Well, congratulations to everybody.
Yes. And you look familiar.
Well,
Morocco.
I'm born in Atlanta, and I've been working with veterans. I was working with the state labor department, all veterans programs for the state, unemployment offices and labor department. And I was there for 17 years. And I had a TV show on the People's Network at one time.
Okay.
And
you never told me about no TV.
I do a lot of things. Yeah. So I've got a kind of diverse background, a little bit of everything. and I have fun doing it.
I could tell. That is the beauty of it. You know, that's what I share with everyone today. This don't get trapped in something you don't want to do. You know that
He grew up with the mayor's mama, Deborah.
He did what?
He grew up with the mayor's mama.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Yeah, she lived a block and a half from me growing up.
Wow.
Yeah, well, the mayor Bottoms, her mother grew up about a block and a half from me. I lived a block off of Martin Luther King in Burbank.
Oh, in Burbank. They didn't change.
Yeah.
Burbank is still Burbank.
In fact,
that's that.
Yeah.
You know, they've changed.
I was like, I grew up about four. Yeah, I grew up 4 or 5 blocks from the record store you're talking about.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So much love there in Atlanta. Let me ask y'all, what is the best restaurant to represent Atlanta? Now, I'm old. My experiences are old, but I enjoy beautiful restaurant. I will swear by beautiful restaurant. I love beautiful restaurant.
I would yield to.
I say when people come to town, when people come to town to visit, or I go out with some friends just to stop somewhere quickly or whatever, the first place I take people from out of town is to the beautiful restaurant.
The beautiful. I mean, now I'm going to shock the world. I'm going to shock the world with this one. I would always recommend the beautiful restaurant, right? And then Busy Bee Cafe, you know, as well. But in particular, the beautiful because of the environment. But you know, when you grow up eating and you eat that every day, like people come to Atlanta to want soul food. Well, I ate soul food every day. So that was a blessing. You know, my mother cooked fresh every day and my grandmother. So when it came to going out, I didn't want to go to the beautiful. You know, so
right.
that's
right.
the shock of the
now,
world.
I grew up.
I can't say that I frequent the beautiful at all.
Grew up in the Pasco's restaurant.
Yes. Now I was going to ask, were you there on the Fridays? I used to go there for when they had the it's not the it was not the SCLC. It was an organization that used to have the breakfast on Friday, fish and grits in the morning. I'm trying, and sometimes
I know at one time the Concerned Black Clergy.
Concerned Black Clergy, that was it. Yeah, they would do. Yeah, I used to go. That was
right.
when I was carrying on with that entrepreneurial bug. That was when the Yahwehs had the Barclay Hotel downtown on Lucky Street, and
right.
That's when the area was
right.
really thriving like that. Yeah, I used to go there all the time for that, and we would go to Pascal's on Sundays. That would be a treat to go there. Sometimes
I was involved with the Concerned Black Clergy for many years.
That might be where I know you're from.
And then back in the 90s, there was a group of guys, was many of us, including Dr. Asa Hilliard, a couple of professors from the AU Center, some of the winos, some of the guys I grew up with. It was about 20 of us, and we would meet every day at Pascal's at 4 o'clock, and we would sit in the front windows where Martin Luther King and Hosea Williams and Jesse Jackson and everybody sat there and strategized during the civil rights movement. Mm-hmm. We would meet every day, and we would have sessions, and we would solve the world's problems. And eventually somebody wrote a newspaper article. Yeah, someone wrote a newspaper article about the Pascal's group, and we were there every day at 4 o'clock, Monday through Friday, for about 4 years, and it was a wonderful experience. And you got to meet many people coming through. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a legacy that many people don't know about Pascal's, other than just the restaurant and having food services with the airport. But the Pascal's restaurant was the headquarters for the civil rights movement.
That's right. That's right. A lot of entertainment stayed at the hotel.
Pascal's now has a new location up by Mercedes-Benz Stadium, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I haven't been in that new
one
yet.
It's more behind over where it's more behind over where you were, Donnie, over at Morehouse, up around on Northside Drive, going away from Spelman.
So I got to share with the headquarters of Mr. Russell. You mentioned Mr. Russell,
Herman Russell.
Closer to
exactly. Right across the street.
Right. In Atlanta, you've got Fortune 500 companies.
Yes.
We're struggling to get one. Where do you see? I mean, Atlanta. Say what you want. Atlanta's still a hot spot, and you're further ahead, further along than a lot of other Black communities around the country. So my question to you both is, what does the future look like for Black people in Atlanta?
I kind of share my opinion. What do you think, Mr. Morocco?
Well, first of all, we have the gentrification taking place. And so the communities are changing. And Miss Lutie Bell, that lived over in the bottom, where she could hardly get services from the city and that kind of thing. They've come in now and built a very expensive home down in the bottom. And the tax base is so high that Miss Lutie Bell can't stay there any longer, and she's got to move out to a senior citizens home. And so now they to those communities and build other expensive houses, and there's a paradigm shift in those communities. And so the majority population is coming into these areas. At the same time, they are bringing the Fortune 500 companies and those advancements. But there's going to be an issue because with the type of activities that are going on with the voting that is now becoming so uninclusive and so detrimental to that community as far as the voting process and these new laws they're passing. Some of the productions that were going to film in Atlanta, they are moving out of Atlanta, or they're changing the script, and where they were going to make movies in Atlanta, they're taking them into other places. And so you're going to have a flux here for a period of time, because you got old school like me, old school Atlanta, and I'm not going anywhere. And I'm going to remain a part of my community and my peer group, the old Washington High School class and whatnot that are still in our community. We're fighting tooth and nail, and we do have a little bar chip where we're not adversely affected by the tax base. So it's going to be go here, and I definitely feel that the majority community is going to have to make some heavy compromises to the Black community. We still got these cases coming up of these Black men that have been shot down in Atlanta last year. There are protests going on throughout the city right now. And so that's the way I view it.
I think too, I mean, just to quickly say, what's happening here is happening everywhere. And it's all by design. If we go back, I mean, like I was saying, we go back and look at the intentional things that have been done to our community. And I feel, again, my opinion, that the crack cocaine placed in our neighborhoods, you know, is the next biggest horrific thing next to slavery. Because when we look at it, you still see this documentation out on how they intentionally change the rap music, hip hop music, to the what we see today, the violent, you know, misogynist, just horrific, all of that to increase that pipeline to the prison. You know, I mean, it's like these are things that we need to be conscious of. And I, you know, my whole thing is, once they did that of course built that pipeline to the prison for the privatization of that. But then you also look at what it did to our neighborhoods, what it did,
destroyed them.
I mean, destroyed them, just destroyed them. And so what's happening is now they get this real estate on pennies of a dollar, and they're able to come in and do so. All of this is if you step back, it's got to be, it's like a chess move. It's got to be by design. And so,
but it is. But let me tell you one of the side effects of this racist type of behavior. We now have white addicts all throughout the Black community in Baltimore. White addicts slumming and bumming like you've never seen. I wish Donald Trump would just come through my alley one day, because they paint a picture of us as drug addicts and dope fiends and these things. Then what the hell do you call these people eating food in my alley?
It's a problem. You know, they just
well, you know,
they got programs.
Being a Vietnam veteran, I have to look at things a little differently. And went back. You got to understand what kind of battle you're in. The battle that I see started 30, 35, 40 years ago, when every major Black city, especially on the East Coast, that was the white flight. Whites ran from the neighborhoods and the communities and ran out in the suburbs and set up their own thing. When they left, all across the country, they have three things in place. Every one of those major cities was left with a Black police chief and a Black mayor. And they were like the gatekeepers until 30 or 40 years later when they come back. So the third thing that all of these cities had, whatever state these cities are in, none of those states had a Black governor, because the governor controls the National Guard, the armory, the gun, and the bullets, to call out the National Guard if an uprising, or when you start tearing up the streets, or when you start rioting. And now the paradigm shift is here. They come back now, and it was like a whistle blew all across the country, and everybody came out of the hinterlands. And now they're coming to the inner city. Right. And they're coming with a kind of a manifest destiny. Like, this is mine, I'm supposed to be here. You know,
discovering this.
So we have work. Yeah. So we have work to do in protecting our seniors who are being put in a checkmate position. And then at the same time, they for a city like Atlanta, those same seniors came back from World War II and built these communities, Collier Heights, Southwest Atlanta, the East Side, and those thriving communities. And as you talked about the across from Pascal's, where we have the Russells, on Auburn Avenue, all of the businesses. Auburn Avenue was like a small
Black Wall Street.
Black Wall Street.
Yeah, it's one of the richest streets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so, right. And so we have an obligation to take care of our seniors, and which I'm closing in on, but I'm talking about seniors. And we have an obligation to them. We have an obligation to carry on the legacy that was gifted to us.
Well, I don't want to steal too much of your time. Deborah, let's put a plug in for mid-tier. Let's put in a plug for you, and then we'll go to Morocco. Thank you both for joining us. Nothing but love for the ATL.
Oh, absolutely. Again, please make sure you register at midtier.org. We have an event that we are hosting. The HHS, Department of Health and Human Services, came to our organization and wanted us to be able to supply CEOs, principals of companies that they could sit down with in a roundtable discussion to help impact some of the policies that are going on. So if you're into federal government contracting, you want to be there. midtier.org, register. It's this Wednesday. It's a virtual event, so you don't have to worry about traveling. midtier.org, and you can learn more about our organization. We've been around almost 11 years now, advocating for small businesses and mid-sized firms and in federal contracting.
Come on, Morocco.
Wow. Let me say that now I've been retired in 21 years as a director, assistant director of the Office of Veterans Programs for the state of Georgia. But I'm still working with and helping veterans get their benefits, the widows to get their benefits, the children of veterans if they are eligible for benefits. And at the same time, in keeping with what Sister Hardnett said, there is with the VA and the SBA, they're looking for, especially Vietnam veterans that have businesses and that are looking to expand their businesses. And the VA will set up an audience with the VA and the SBA, Small Business Administration. They will listen to your concept. If they the concept, they will help with the proposal. And then they were, for instance, I got a buddy that I grew up with. He started 30 years ago with a lawnmower cutting a few people's yards. Now he's got 3 great big trucks. He's got heavy equipment. He sent his son to the University of Georgia to get a degree in landscape management. And he has many people that he has hired in his business. And I keep telling him to go to the SBA. He's a Vietnam veteran. Mm-hmm. The SBA will provide money for trucks, equipment, buildings, everything that's needed. And that money doesn't really have to be paid back, because the concept is that veteran starts flourishing in his business, he's going to hire veterans. Mm-hmm. So it sounds somewhat like in keeping with the program that you're talking about, and I will let my veteran counterparts know about this. And also, I'm on the Congressional Black Caucus Veterans Brain Trust in DC, and so I work with some of those programs like that also every September during the Congressional Black Caucus.
Well, you may know Tanya.
So anyone needs that I might be Tanya Saunders.
Yes,
doesn't ring a bell.
Yeah, so she's worked. Matter of fact, we have we always host an event during the Congressional Black Caucus as well. But she's a lobbyist.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's the founder.
Okay. Yeah, well, I work with Congressman Sanford Bishop from Georgia.
Yes.
And the outgoing Dean Emeritus Charlie Rangel out of Harlem, who is retired now. But in the meantime, if anyone is interested in my book, which might help with some of the things that veterans are going through and how to handle VA system for benefits and whatever else, if I can be of assistance to any veterans, contact me at Morocco Morocco, Morocco at bellsouth.net, or I can be reached at 404-372-2326. 404-372-2326. Thank you, Donnie.
Thank you very much, Deborah. I appreciate you. Morocco, I appreciate you too. And I will be there with my book to see you shortly.
Looking forward to it.
And thank you again. Have a beautiful day, folks. We'll be back at 7 p.m. tonight with Town Hall with Dave and Quita. Till next time, y'all be safe out there.
Good meeting.